You can use the area formulas to derive the law of sines, which shows the relationships between side lengths of a triangle and the sines of the angles opposite them. So here are my area formulas from the page before. They're all equivalent because they could all be used for the same ABC triangle. So what we want to do here is see if we can kind of rearrange it. So I'm going to get rid of that 1/2 in all of them. Just I'll multiply all of these equations by 2. So that's going to give us BC sine A is equal to AC sine B and AB sine C. And next what I'm going to do is just divide them all by ABC. And you'll see what happens. When I do this, B and C will cancel out, so I get sine A over A. And then A and C will cancel out, so I get sine B over B. And lastly, AB cancels, so I get sine C over C, and that is where our law of sines is coming from. So if triangle ABC, in triangle ABC, if the sides with lengths A, B, and C have opposite angles with measures capital A, capital B, capital C, respectively, then the following is true. Sine of A over A is equal to sine B over B is equal to sine C over C. So this ratio helps us to find missing parts of a triangle. We can use the law of sines to solve a triangle. What we mean by solve a triangle is to find all of the unknown side lengths and angle measures. So we can use this to solve if you know either of the following, either the measures of 2 angles and any side, or 2 sides and the angle opposite one of those sides. And that's really going to kind of go back to in geometry when you talked about your different triangle rules, your postulates, angle, angle side, and angle side angle. So those first 2 are ones you're familiar with from geometry. And the last ones is a new case that you haven't dealt with, and we're going to kind of delve more into tomorrow. For example 1, we want to solve the triangle. So let's just sketch a triangle real quick. So here's triangle ABC, and let's fill in what we do know, and it doesn't really matter where you label each of the variables as long as the capital letter is opposite the lowercase letter. All right, so we are given that angle A is 50 degrees. We are given that angle B is 30 degrees, and we want to find, and we also know C is 9. We want to find everything else. So what's important to keep in mind is that we know that the interior angles of a triangle add to 180. And the other thing that's important is to make sure your calculator is in degree mode. So hit that mode button and make sure degree is what's being selected. All right, so to find that third angle, since I already know 2, life will be a lot easier. I could just add them all together, including C, and set them equal to 180, and now I'll solve. So I'm going to get that C is equal to 100 degrees. So that wasn't too bad when I know 2 angles, the third angle, pretty easy. That's just kind of going back to geometry. Then, in order to find the missing sides, I have to use the law of sines. So what I want to think about is what information do I already have an entire fraction for? What I mean by that is there a variable, like A, B, or C, that I know both the capital and the lowercase letter of? And I know both of the C's, so I'm going to use that information to help me. So I know that sine C over C, that is information that I do have. And let's pick a letter to solve for first. How about little a? So we're going to say this is set equal to sine A over A, and I can really use any of the fractions from the law of sines to set to each other. All right, so sine C over C, so that's really sine of 100 degrees over 9 is equal to sine of 50 degrees over little a, and now we can solve for little a. The only thing we want to keep in mind is we don't want to be rounding a lot because then we won't get very accurate answers. So our hope is to only round at the very, very end. So we are going to cross multiply here. So I can do a times sine of 100. So that's a times sine 100. I'm going to set that equal to 9 times sine of 50. Whoops. 9 times sine 50. Then I'll divide by the sine of 100. This is kind of that calculator ready mode if you remember from a while back in the beginning of the year. And then from there, what I can do, as long as I have a calculator to use, is just type that all in, and I'm going to get that A is about 7.0. Same exact concept, but now we can use this to find side B. So for side B, what I want to do is the same idea. I'm going to use sine C over C, but now I just want to use sine B over B. And again, we're going to just put in what we know. So we have sine of 100 degrees over 9 is equal to sine of 30 degrees over lowercase b, and we'll cross multiply. So b times sine 100 is equal to 9 times sine of 30, and then we'll divide. So b equals 9 sine 30 over sine 100. And that's going to give us about 4.6 for that other side. Okay. Now sometimes instead of being given 2 angles and a side, we might be given an angle, or instead of being given, 2 angles and a side, it's possible we might be given 2 sides and an angle, and hopefully we'll see that in just a second. Actually, I think I have one more problem hidden down. Here we go. Let's use this problem too. We'll do one extra one. Okay. All right. So for number 2, same kind of concept. We'll draw our triangle. We have ABC. So angle A is 80, angle C is 14, and we're given that lowercase a is 40. All right, and then we have this is C and this is B. And again, we want to just look, what do I have, what information do I have to start? So let's do our angles. We have 2 angles. We can find the third pretty easily. 80 plus 14 plus B should be 180. So when I solve that, I'm going to get B is equal to 86. All right, so from there, now that I have the 86 degrees, I have to figure out what do I want to find first. But we know that we have both of the A's, so we're going to use sine A over A with each of these pieces of information. So I guess we can go alphabetical. Why not? Sine B over B. So that tells us we have sine of 80 over 40. And that's going to be equal to sine 86 over B. And we'll cross multiply. So we get B times sine of 80 is going to equal 40 times sine of 86. And then divide, so B equals 40 times sine 86 divided by sine of 80. So we'll get B is about 40.5. And most of these you're going to just have to round. All right, for the last part, again, I would rely on the given or mostly given information, so you don't have to worry about using the rounded numbers. So we have sine A over A is equal to sine C over C, and let's plug in what we know. So we have sine of 80 over 40 is equal to sine of 14 over C. All right, cross multiply. So C sine 80 is equal to 40 times sine 14, and then we'll divide. So C equals 40 times sine 14 over sine of 80. So we're going to get that C is about 9.8. Okay, so I will have solved my triangle because I have all of my missing information, obviously not drawn to scale. All right, sometimes instead we're given 2 sides and an angle. So let's see what that looks like. Again, ABC doesn't really matter what you label as long as the lowercase letters are opposite the angles. So we have A is 72 degrees, and we have lowercase a is 8, lowercase c is 6. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to look for what letter do I know both of, and it happens to be A this time. So I'm going to use sine A over A is equal to, I don't know, how about alphabetical, sine B over B. And let's put in what we do know. So we have sine of 72 over lowercase a is 8 is equal to, I don't know big B, over, and then lowercase b. Actually, I don't know lowercase b, so I guess we should use c first, huh? That would make some sense, huh? All right, so we are given c is 6, so I guess we should start there. Otherwise, I don't have any other information. All right, so I'll cross multiply. Or in reality, I could just multiply both sides by 6. That would work too. That might be easier. So I have 6 sine of 72 is over 8 is equal to sine of c. Now to undo sine of c, we want to do sine inverse. So really what you're going to type in your calculator is capital C is going to be equal to, you're going to have to hit second and then sine to do the sine inverse button of, and then that whole big fraction, 6 sine 72 over 8. Okay. When you work that out, again, make sure you're in degree mode. You're going to get that C is about 46. From there, we don't need to keep rounding. What we're going to do is say my angle should add to 180. So using 46 plus 72 plus B is equal to 180. And then we will add and subtract. So we're going to get that B is equal to 62. And then lastly, we just need to find, lowercase b. So we're going to try to squeeze this in somewhere. We have that sine A over A. We know, I'm just going to shift this down a little bit. Oh, whoops. We'll just kind of scooch this over. Okay. So we have sine A over A is equal to sine B over B. All right, and now let's use what we do know. So we know sine of 72 over 8 is equal to sine of 62 over B, and I will cross multiply. So I'm going to get B times sine of 72 is equal to 8 times sine of 62. And then I'll divide. So B is going to equal 8 times sine of 62 divided by sine of 72, which is going to give us about 7.4. I know all three angles, all three sides, so now it's solved for.